Well, let me share something really interesting that happened with Hurricane Iselle when I was on Kauai, because that was really the first one that I got in there just at the last minute's notice and started working. And I actually didn't know what I was doing. Let's see, that was in August of 2014, and I left for Kauai in January. And right before I left for Kauai, remember, interesting, John Brown and Renee, that's when they were here. We had gone to the Kilauea volcano, the three of us, and we're doing our own personal kind of ceremonies and meditations. And at one point, I was like off from those two a ways down, looking into the caldera. And at one point, I was guided to place, actually, Metatron's cube right in the middle of the caldera. When I opened my eyes, John was standing right next to me. And he had been guided, and I can't remember what he said he was guided to do, but he was also guided to add some sacred geometry to the caldera. So whatever he did was placed on top of what I did. Moved to Kauai, didn't really think anything more about it until the night that a cell was bearing down on the southeast point of the island. And it was headed straight on, to my landlord. That's where she lived, and straight for my house. And at one point when I'm watching the hurricane and the eye approaching the southeast corner, it started moving south along the southern coast of the island. It changed directions, literally. And when it got, I'd say, 20 or 30 miles along the coastline, I realized it was positioned right south of the caldera. And something in me at that moment said, spin up that vortex, activate the Metatron's cube. And when I did that, the darn thing goes straight over the caldera and collapses.
That's because it's a magnetic storm too. And the amount of electricity is there than the amount of electricity that's coming out of the caldera. Now, what was going on in that particular storm is somebody was harvesting mass amounts of energy and purposely doing that.
Harvested a lot of my energy, that's for sure.
No, earth energy, raw earth energy. Remember, Earth's an unlimited energy machine.
Yeah.
And if you have access to an unlimited energy machine, you just need a big motherfucking battery or a giant machine that requires unlimited energy to get started, called infinite energy drives. You still need an infinite spark to get an infinite energy drive going.
Hey, Andrew, how about people that get charged up by the storms? Like, in the X-Men, there's Storm, the female that...
Oh, yeah. We do get charged up. We do. The amount of ions that are in the air charges our aura.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are charged by the storm. We are bioelectric beings, biophotonic beings. A storm is both bioelectric and biophotonic.
So a lot of people might have their first sensation on an energetic level with storms. They might actually feel uncomfortable because it's the first time their senses are kicking in. So instead of shutting down, it's like go into it. Like, where can this go?
Exactly. Where can I go next?
Well, one of the interesting things I picked up from Hurricane Harvey, and knowing how city dwellers are so disconnected from nature, that was another thing that I picked up on was, it's kind of nature forcing itself into the lives of people who have disconnected themselves from nature. Like, did you see the guy who was catching catfish in his living room?
Yep, I saw that. Or the guy on the piano. The guy on the piano playing the piano in the water.
The what piano?
Guy in his flooded house playing his piano.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
That's a really good one too.
Hey, I've got a good picture I'll share with you, all right? And you'll see it and you'll be like, holy crap. So it's just copying now. But I remember now that there was this big Category 5. I think it went through Minnesota or somewhere like that. Just recently, like last couple of years. It went through like one of the big cities in America.
Sandy? Talking about Hurricane Sandy.
No, not Sandy. It
20.
was. It might not be a hurricane. It might have been a tornado. Went through Minnesota. Not Milwaukee, because that's up north.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that hit in Oklahoma that leveled the whole city and killed like 700 people. Yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
What?
Yeah.
2013,
Tornado.
2013, was it?
Yeah, 2014, I think.
Oh, are you talking about one of the tornadoes that went through Moore, Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were in a really bad path there. They had another one go through there in...
But it went through one of the main cities.
That's it. That's it. Moore.
Because I remember seeing it go through all the big buildings. Like I thought it was like the state capitol, but more it could be it. I'm looking at the images now.
That was Oklahoma City. And actually, the first time an actual tornado was seen in between high rises.
Yeah, that's the one I'm picturing in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't remember that one going through. Oh, wait a minute. Well, no, there was the one that went through El Reno.
Oh, it was a big city.
They've had so many. Oh, my God. But I don't remember one going through downtown.
No, it was St. Louis. I think it was St. Louis. Because that's when the whole Kentucky Valley flooded and the Grand Ole Opry got sunk.
I remember that one.
Yeah, like here's the images for it, and it went through the listed tornadoes striking downtown areas in large city. Thank you, Wikipedia. Yeah, so there was it's not. It was pretty recent.
This one is a picture of a shark outside of a car.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm planning on using that for a good image, mate. You know what I mean? Like I saw that, I was like, all right.
Okay, I see. All right, I see.
Anyway, that's funny.
Remember the one I sent to you, the shark that was found on the ground inland, Andrew?
Yep.
And that was in Australia, too, somewhere in Australia. Did you see that, Andre?
I did.
Sorry, what was that?
I don't know. A shark in the middle of the road.
Yeah, like 11 miles inland or something.
Up in the north and northeast of Australia, in the main city, Brisbane, that gets dumped on all the time. They have a lot of sharks that go inland there, and yeah. It's actually not that uncommon, believe it or not. It's just something you don't really see all that, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's a great shot. You know, I just got the impression that shark just had one hell of a final journey, you know? Reminded me of, who was it, Larry Bazell, who talked about he would go, when he went fishing, he would ask the fish if they wanted to ride in the back of his pickup truck.
Yep. Want to ride, yep.
Yep. That's what that shark reminded me of. It was just, okay, just one final ride here. I'm going to get to see the land.
Hey, I actually found another tornado that went through Fort Worth. One of the buildings. That was in 2000 though, but it was more recent. I remember seeing it going through. I'm
pretty sure it was Kansas City or Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Or Kansas.
I'll have to find it again.
I don't think it was if it were Oklahoma City, I would remember that because my parents lived there. I don't remember a tornado hitting down. Now, it did go through Moore, which is south.
It was an actual city.
Oklahoma City. Yeah, here it is.
So the other thing they're finding from these Texas floods, they see these giant flotation rafts of fire ants.
Oh, I saw one of those today. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
this
And
will,
alligators.
It could be
and
more.
yeah, I've seen a few alligators in Houston too. Yeah, and the red ants they have down there are nasty. Everything in Texas is big, including the red ants. They're horrible. Giant red ants.
Oklahoma City. Yep, Oklahoma City. Yeah.
Was it Oklahoma City?
Yep.
When?
Yep.
When?
2013. Yep, an EF4. Yep.
Well, hold on. Let me take a look at that. Through Oklahoma City suburb. It didn't go through downtown. That was probably the one that went through more.
It could be. It was around that time, and it's the only really big one I see, mate. So I'm going to have to find it. Like, I just remember seeing it go through buildings and destroying buildings and airports and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Buildings in there.
actually, that area there more has been hit several times with these like F5 tornadoes.
Yeah,
that
there's not that many big ones.
Yeah, that just
Because
rip.
there's a sacred geometry object underneath the whole area there, and a sacred object should be built on top of it so the tornadoes don't keep hitting it and creating resolution.
Well, you go there and tell those Okies that they need to build some sacred geometry mount. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
No, I just let them keep getting hit by tornadoes until they come ask me. I ain't going to go tell them nothing. That's their journey.
Yeah. Well, hey, Annette, like one of the things, Andrew, like we haven't got to talking about is all the relics and artifacts that are in warehouses, like the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders of the Lost Ark and Warehouse 13. That there's all this stuff that's hidden in warehouses, and it goes for it.
Yep. Goes right for them.
Interesting.
So we've got to talk about that stuff yet. So, like shows like
All the knickknacks that are stored in people's safety deposit boxes too. They're haunted ass.
There is so much going on in the unseen world. Oh my God.
yeah,
That's why these hurricanes are a bigger unseen force damage than the seen force. You know, when you see winds whip through a city at 100, 150 miles an hour, what do you think that 150 mile an hour wind does to the unseen world, to the ghosts? They get sucked up.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So
They don't have any of us to hold on to.
So the winds actually affect the other. What would that dimension be? Is that or is that an astral realm?
Oh, no, it's a phased out of reality. It's phased out of this reality, and the winds make all the realities blend into one. Lowers the veil of separation between all dimensions and realities.
Interesting.
You ever seen those pictures of a little twig going through the side of a tree?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Mm.
Reality altering and warping there.
Mm.
And when the wind is moving that fast, you have an electromagnetic curtain around you.
Yeah, it's like particles and stuff that creates its own energy. Yeah.
Yep.
So it works on other levels. I get it.
Right.
So yeah, there's this massive constant clearing going on and all around us, and we're wanting to create safety for ourselves instead of being cleared and free. You know, smudging a big city.
This is a planetary smudge.
Yeah. It's a macro smudge.
Yep.
Well, like I said, one of the things I always add into my weather stuff is cleansing.
Mm-hmm.
Just not 150 mile an hour cleansing. Slow it down a little bit, but still cleanse. Well, it makes a lot of sense. You know, it's just something I'm going to have to sit down and ponder and, really get into from the silence within. But yeah, you're opening up some whole new avenues of perception.
That's why I called the videos Age of Resolution. Because it's karma clearing, basically. Andrew said it's the equation of karma working on a greater scale when we're not doing it, There's this this big ally that's around that assists us, and it's the weather.
Like, go storm, go.
So what do they do to create an opposition to it? Create the global warming, like, facade, right. Like, because we're not in control of the weather. It's like we're a victim of the weather, you know? It's like they're projecting their perceptions onto us, so we incorporate them to empower what they want us to empower, you know?
Exactly.
Well, they do use weather to create a lot of fear.
Well, they portray weather to create fear, not make weather.
Thank you for correcting me there. But yeah, they use these systems to create fear, and that was one of the things that a bunch of us noticed last year. You know, and I remember one of the systems that was like predicted to hit the islands, and it was like when it got here, it was just, you know, a little extra wind and rain, and then it was the same thing with Matthew. And I don't even think the radar they're giving us is accurate. There was a lot of question there whether, what they were doing with these storms that never really developed. And, we're being shown this, Cat 4, Cat 5 hurricane that never hits land, It's like, where's the storm? And it all dissipates before it gets here.
Hey, Annette, last year, like late last year, up at Vancouver Island, Debbie and Mandy were up there, and they did a ceremony because there was a big storm coming through Seattle, and and it was like really ominous and stuff, and the weather was hyping the fear and that, and they did all the ceremonies, and it didn't turn out to be anything, and then everyone were pissed at the media because they were hyping the fear. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's what I was noticing. It was a conversation last year with some of these storms. It's like
they were using the technology to benefit humanity. Okay, and what happened shortly after that? The entire drought for California ended. A 30-year drought ended in one rainstorm.
Yeah.
Okay? 30-year drought ended in one rainstorm. That's positive weather control. Okay, that's for the positive.
Yeah, like water is like control.
Now it comes down to they activate the energy systems. Can they overwhelm something? And right now, I don't think that they have the energy to generate it. That's why if it does go south towards Mexico, we know that there's some serious shit going on, and they're still fighting each other at the major levels.
Yeah.
It goes, goes into the Americas, then, that's the karma. That's where the biggest amount of karma in the world is being resolved right now. Hong Kong got hit twice, Bangladesh is getting hit over and over again. There's some nasty-ass shit going on there.
Yeah, Mumbai, the financial capital of India, is underwater.
Huh?
Literally underwater. Yeah. And that's why I've wondered if, because we've got some major financial capitals going underwater right now. And I was wondering if this wasn't financial weather warfare.
No, it had nothing to do with that. It's resolution of karma. Wherever the most amount of karma is, it's going to get hit. That means if anything holding on to that karma, it'll be stripped away from them, or they will be stripped away from the reality.
Well, the one weather forecast that I watched on this Irma, actually a couple of them, are right. What they're predicting publicly is there's concern that it'll hit New York or Washington. Actually, New York, and New York City sure has a lot of karma to clean up too. If you want to talk about wind cleaning things, but yeah, it'd be real interesting to see what happens with this storm.
You have buildings that are toppling in India now, showing how bad the actual, the whole town's underwater. Look at this.
Do you think this one's going to have as much precipitation as Harvey did?
Irma?
Yeah.
Yes, it'll probably have more, actually. It'll have more.
I think a lot of what happened with Harvey with the precipitation was the fact that there were two high pressure systems holding it over Houston.
Correct. Not to mention all the moisture that was coming out of the Rockies, feeding it even more. Because that's normal thunderstorm territory.
It's Tornado Alley. Yeah.
It's Tornado Alley, so it went right into Tornado Alley.
Well, that's when you can see how the jet stream from the Gulf of Mexico was really feeding the rain, especially on the east side of Houston. I mean, you could just see it was like pumping the moisture up that area. But yeah, I think that's where a lot of the rainfall totals came from, was the fact the storm didn't move. It just hit land and sat there and took a big dump.
Well, it was going to put 40 inches of rain down anyways. It was a matter if it was going to put 40 inches of rain down in one place or spread over several hundred miles.
Right.
See, the thing is, once it did start moving, it kept putting rain upriver, and it took 7 days for that rain to go downriver, which flooded everything again. That's the issue with these storms that go over the big rivers.
Yeah, there was that big Mississippi flooding 2 or 3 years ago now. Time goes quick, but massive one.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
So yeah, there's a pattern that you can associate what might be going on at that time. Because Andrew showed me a real crazy one from 1913 that went all through Ohio and stuff. And it was like, it was 30 days before the Federal Reserve got implemented. And
so, Annette, imagine this. Yeah. A hurricane in the Gulf goes up the Mississippi River as a Category 4, goes up the Mississippi, becomes a Category 3, goes up the Ohio River, goes over Lake Erie, goes over Lake Michigan, and then goes down the Maumee River and back down the Mississippi, out through Kentucky, back over the Atlantic, and then goes and hits New York City.
And this was in 1913?
Yes, called the Great Blow, the Big Blow. It was an actual an actual hurricane blizzard, because that's what it did. Because it hit at a time where it was winter.
What?
Yes.
That's it there. I just gave the link.
That's crazy.
And I did a recording with Andrew that I haven't done the video for, which was all about the Chicago, New Orleans, Denver, bit of New York and Cleveland, and in that time, that's when the Illuminati was the heads, like the Rockefellers and all that. So
that's when the Rockefellers were leaving Cleveland and moving to New York City.
Interesting.
Imagine their big houses and the manor houses. Like Andrew told me, like the foundations are still there and they're not allowed to be moved and stuff.
Yep.
Like forever, the structures of the houses are not allowed to be touched, but they're not lived in.
Yeah.
So you imagine this big freaky storm happens all through the US and it's just prior to the Federal Reserve being implemented. So maybe it's like, what is up and what does Earth know and what don't I know? What do I need to keep my eyes out for? What's going on in this region of the world?
Wow. So you were asking before, and now that you know about the Big Blow, we're also saying that Irma more than likely will. Well, no, not more than likely. There's like 30 models, but this particular model is looking at saying that it could have the same thing, where it could go up the Mississippi or go over the Appalachian Mountains and then hover over Lake Huron, Lake Erie, Lake Superior, and Lake Michigan and become a Category 5 again.
Very interesting.
That's happened in history many times before. The last one was in 2013, the Lake Huron extra tropical depression, where it reformed an eye over the lake.
I'm seeing it, mate. As soon as you said it, like, of course, I get it. And I know, as soon as people hear it, they'll transmute their perception of it instantly, you know?
Now, as I keep tracking the flow of karmic resolution, so Harvey has created a influx of good emotion to an area. And this is subtle counter-influencing of the weather, meaning the collection has come together and acknowledged something that is going on, the global narrative is allowing something to follow. But conversely, there are other things that are going on because Houston is the center for the mercenary units of the world. Like the most amount of private mercenary forces are in Houston.
Yeah.
All throughout Texas. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, many of those had to be evacuated, moved out. Where are they at now? Those are where the agent provocateurs are. Those are the ones that are the countermarch systems, etc. Where are those at? Well, there are new marches that are supposed to be set up. They're always marching on Washington. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're medium-sized.
I get it.
Now,
It's,
it could also hit New York City. Imagine if a tornado hit the UN.
Has a hurricane ever hit Washington, D.C.?
Yes. In 1814, a hurricane suddenly appeared when the city of Washington was captured by the British and being burnt down. They were burning the Capitol down, the whole thing, the White House, everything. And a hurricane came up on them and spun tornadoes and totally devastated the British Army and Navy. And so the occupation only lasted 26 hours before they had to retreat 28,000 troops.
Interesting.
And they signed a peace accord the next day.
Yeah.
Well, didn't a similar thing happened in Great Britain with the Spanish Armada?
Yeah.
What was that? Queen Victoria? Wasn't that? Was that?
That's happened. Many fleets have been sunk by hurricanes.
Interesting. Well, so how does that happen? I mean, are those? Is that the weather wizards, especially back then?
Well, wizard is just another form of person who knows how to operate the hologram.
Right.
Okay. So yes, some did via technology and some did it via consciousness magic. There's really no difference between the two. It's a matter of resources. If you have the consciousness personalities, you'll do it that way. If you have the technology, you'll do it that way. If you have both, even better.
Yeah.
Remember, it's a tremendous amount of energy to change a weather system.
How much effect can man-made technology have on these storms, and how does it affect them? Can they affect the movement, the intensity, trajectory?
Everything, seen and unseen.
The whole West Coast is burning right now.
Yeah, it is. And the East Coast has 3 hurricanes going after it.
I know!
Yeah.
Oh, dear me.
And then you got a dictator threatening
so
nuclear
good
war.
I beg your pardon, the last bit you said.
And then we have a dictator threatening nuclear war.
Oh, my God. But that I don't think. But certainly what's real right now is the fire forest and the flooding and storms. Irma is coming now. The Caribbean has been hit already.
And there's a second storm, Jose.
Barbados.
Yeah, so a second storm has already been hit. Second storm is already being formed.
Shoot. Where?
It's called Jose, and it's in the Atlantic. It's coming the same path as Irma. The one that's over Puerto Rico now and is going to pretty much do the same path of Hurricane Andrew, and it's going to go up the Florida coast. It's a matter of how high it goes.
Oh, it's so sad. I almost feel like crying.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Anyway, I hope Florida will be missed.
Well, it's not the issue. It doesn't even need to make landfall for it to be a disaster. It could go out to sea. The storm is so big that it can just drop 20 inches of rain and raise the storm surge 15 feet, and you're going to have massive damage over 30 million people.
Holy shit.
Right. See, that's the irony of these superstorms. And in the series I just put out with...
irony.
Yeah. Well, they're resolving karma.
Okay, that's the way it's supposed to happen.
You know, that rain that comes down is imprinted crystalline water that has gone to the highest levels of the atmosphere, been exposed to that of the sun, which has been reprogrammed again, which is now falling back down to the surface in this inner cyclone hurricane eye process that it's rapidly taking water and turning it into moisture and reprogramming it and reprogramming the surface layer of the hologram, changing the salinity levels of the ocean. Yeah, it's reprogramming.
What kind?
Well,
Of reprogramming.
Well, think of it this way. You have a weather pattern. Why do you think they're trying to control the weather?
For so many... fucking hell.
There's a reason. It's our
like
collective...
evil.
The weather is our collective consciousness trying to get us all to work together. The uncollective is the parts that don't want to work together. So those that are countering the natural organic flow of the weather, which is unity conscious that already exists in everyone's unseen world, and it's a matter of the seen world people making bonded, interconnected moments on sacred places, and then your dream world and your physical worlds are unified, just like there were in all other histories. It's our legacy as a species. Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. So these storms are also time storms where they're reseeding life. There were scenarios where forced evolutionary domination and control systems removed whole eras and timelines, which lots of sea life was planned, and it never got its time. Literally, its time. And these storms are reseeding the whole oceans with life that should have existed 20, 30, 50 million years ago, but never had its opportunity.
Wow. That
Right.
is so intense.
Now, for all those,
And interesting.
yeah, for all those people out there, Andre and I have now just released the first 2 videos. They're on the YouTube
I'm
page.
looking forward to those
Yeah,
too. I didn't know they were out.
They went up. They came up this morning or late last night. And we have another 5.
I love this guy, what he's doing with you.
Yeah, I have another 5 episodes that we're planning with him. So we're gonna track.
Oh, sorry, I cut you though.
Yeah. We're gonna track Hurricane Irma all the way to its end, and then track Jose. And if Katina, which is a tropical storm over the Yucatan right now, turns into a hurricane, it'll probably go up the side of the west coast and maybe affect lower Baja.
Holy croupy.
Right. Or it could become a Pacific hurricane and hit Hawaii, which I doubt, but.
Well, wizard is just another form of person who knows how to operate the hologram.
Right.
Okay? So yes, some did via technology and some did it via consciousness magic. There's really no difference between the two. It's a matter of resources. If you have the consciousness personalities, you'll do it that way. If you have the technology, you'll do it that way. If you have both, even better.
Yeah.
Remember, it's a tremendous amount of energy to change a weather system.
How much effect can man-made technology have on these storms, and how does it affect them? Can they affect the movement, the intensity, trajectory?
Everything, seen and unseen.
I found that thing on the Spanish being defeated by the weather, 1588.
Yeah.
Quite a while ago.
There was a movie, I forget what movie it was. that illustrated that very well.
There are also weather incidents that destroyed whole armies in advancement. Winter storms that stopped, killed whole armies.
Oh, didn't that happen to Napoleon when he went into Russia?
Yep. No winter clothing.
Oh, man.
Make sure you brag up when you go to Russia.
Yeah. It's not good planning on Napoleon's part there.
So these storms are unseen. They batter the unseen world. Now, the other part of this technology, when a natural organic time frequency storm like this comes, and it goes over military bases that have subterranean technology, it does affect that subterranean technology. All right?
Yeah.
These storms do affect deep under the ground.
Yeah.
Okay? Just because there's above ground 120 mile an hour winds, the unseen winds penetrate the atoms. Okay?
So how do they affect what's going on down there? I mean, what would be the physical effects of it and the manifestation?
Portals in time would be opening and closing. Time wouldn't function normally down there. The technology that requires infinite energy sources would start to fail because there'd be a fluctuation in infinite energy potentials. So anything that's an infinite energy drive won't function. Okay, which is what they need to support their technology in their hyper environments. So complete cascading failing of their super high end billion-year-old technology. Yeah. Just like a solar flare can knock out our satellites, these hurricanes can knock out all their technology because it's a counter bioluminescent frequency using time manipulation.
Interesting.
Right.
Now, does the sun or the cosmic rays affect the underground technology too?
Yes, because the actual hurricane itself is still solar powered. Think about it.
Hitting the water, yeah, it's the story.
And the top of the clouds. It's ultimately the top of the clouds that is getting hit by the sun that makes a hurricane a super hurricane.
Yeah, I know the angle of the sun is related to the nuclear technology in the region, the location. Like, it doesn't work anyway the way they say it. It's very specialized stuff. And
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a nuclear weapon just won't work anywhere, There's all alignment with the sun and shit like that, and the location of the grid of the earth. That's why cities are on their locations, It's all the same relationship. So,
So your answer to your question is, how do the solar rays affect? The solar rays are reprogramming the water at the microbial level, and when you have 100,000 trillions of water come down over an area, it also has an unseen penetration process to it. It's not just how far the water seeps to the surface. That's our limited point of view.
Yeah.
That hurricane is driving water as an energy frequency to penetrate cells and atoms and go into void spaces, which are dense energy, and it's sending, large volumes of buffeting frequency, just like the winds against the houses, deep underground, till it starts altering their reality and luring that reality to the surface as a magnetic bioelectric frequency that is going to be an offset of an electricity going back into the cloud saying, I have now cleared that deep underground void space.
How do these systems interact with inner Earth or hollow Earth? Do they?
So it really only affects the top 70 miles of the Earth.
Okay.
The Earth is many thousands of miles thick, first thing first.
Right.
So is it felt below 70 miles? Yes, but it's nowhere near as damaging or pulling. So it's like having a normal thunderstorm at that deep innard. But that surface area is where the big battle between surface and semi-subsurface species are. There's, billions of beings that live in the semi-subsurface who are not allowed to be a part of the global narrative and who are hunted by the deep hollow earth people. Many of these are breakaway civilizations, or those things that are in timeline fallout shelters, or those giants that are in suspended animation all over the planet. They're the unwanted tech DNA skin suits on a surface of an unlimited reality. Those are all things that could pretend and pose to be a god to compare to everything else in this world, based off of knowingness alone.
How about the whales and the undersea life? Because I did that whale recording with you, and you're talking they've got technology and stuff, so...
They are the ones that are stirring up the water to work more fluidly together, as well as these storms stir up the ocean and create new life, too. Yeah. New life is coming through the sun, DNA frequencies, through the storm, through the rain, which is actually making brand new life in the water.
Yeah, because most of the womb chakras are around the equator, and that's where all these storms are, so I get it. There's a relationship.
Yeah.
Seeding, too, is reseeding of the planet.
Mm.
That makes sense.
Because the womb chakras are where the life births, so there's a relationship between the sun, the water, and the energy, yeah. Because it's a process, right?
Right.
So then, in other words, these systems that approach the Hawaiian Islands, because I know there are, 7 womb chakras here?
Uh-huh.
There's a positive interaction going on there when that happens, correct?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Life is giving birth. Direct from the sun. Recharging the water to support a whole new level of life. Taking the pollution and the karma and the imprint out of it.
Andre, are you recording this call?
Yeah. Does a donkey, as my 100-year-old meditation leader would say, does a donkey like oats?
I assumed you were, but we know what assuming does. But yeah, because this is, this is good information for me.
I think it's good information for everyone.
Well, yeah, definitely. But, as somebody who's, remembering what this is all about, and how to do something.
I'll give you a copy. I'll send all the other stuff over in one big download of just the audio,
cool.
So you can have a listen. Process.
Cool. Yeah, we just hit 144. Cool. Yeah, because I'm making a note of the time that we're talking here, because this is triggering some good stuff, and will help my work when I work with these systems, and knowing in better understanding what's going on, so that I'm not not being a controller or trying to change, you know what I'm trying to say.
The way I operate is I'm in harmony with the earth, the ancestors, the universe, and all that, and I'm just an instrument on earth to align with all that, so I know what you're saying. It's like, like when Andrew told me this, it's like clearing, and it's like brilliant, like massive dumps of water, they give the humans in the region an opportunity to have a break from the entities, which they have probably no idea of. There's no concept of entity attachment or ghosts and all that. It's not a part of our Western world. It's even comprehended that it could be there. So giving people a bit of a break from that, and you're seeing all the good stuff and the unity happen, I mean, that's obvious. You can see how people are when there is trouble, unfortunately, as in a relationship between being cleared, from shit that's gone on in their house, not aware of the energy. I think it's very positive. Because if
I do too. I do too. I view these things as very positive. It's all I see it as a transformational process and a clearing and cleansing process, and
Because say,
You know,
even for you, right? Even for you, say if you're perceiving a storm that's looking pretty threatening and you're worried about your home and stuff like that. What if it did hit your home and you had to move, and then you have chaos in your life and you randomly meet a soul family member? You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
You know,
yeah, I know.
it's an ally.
That happened in New Orleans. That happened in New Orleans. 500,000 people never returned to the city.
Mass resolution.
Never returned. Those beings that they were never going to leave. They were stuck there, haunted to be there, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime.
And what about the poor people who'd move to Houston and then get hit again?
Well, you know, of that 400,000 didn't come back. Like 100,000 went to Houston. That's the part.
I know. I saw an interview with one of those ladies. She's going, I'm just now recovering from Katrina. You know, I was,
The
yeah.
measurements of what life is about aren't accurate because we're in this reality. You know what I mean? So it's like there's purpose. There's always purpose.
Well, and I'm the first one to stand up and say adversity is our greatest teacher. It really is. You know,
No. Adversity is not our greatest teacher. Getting along is our greatest teacher.
okay, one of our greatest teachers is adversity.
That is the Lisbon imprint, taking love away from the first choice.
You know, I mean, you said it. This is the school of hard knocks. You know?
Right.
And we just learn without.
The thing, isn't it, like asking and putting something out there like that only reveals a better potential. You know what I mean? It's like there's no wrong. It's new perspectives. What might I not be seeing? You know, that's a consistent theme now because resolution is going to no doubt accelerate and things like this will become more mainstay and common.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's what I say when I talk about what I'm observing in this realm. From the 3D aspect is, you know, definitely a ramping up of all kinds of, you know, whether it's wildfires, earthquakes, floods, landslides, hurricanes, the scale that this stuff has happened before. But
Times before.
at the rate and scale that it's happening right now, constantly, and in, you know, I don't like to use the word biblical, or how about epic proportions.
Hey, Andrew actually brought up a wiki link that had the volume per year or decade of the great storms, and for most of the recorded history from the mid 1850s in America, there was between 15 and 25 major storms every decade. Well, in the 2000 to 2010, there were only 5 in it.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some of this data from the global cooling guys. And, you know, it's matching what I'm observing. And, you know, to me, it's all good, you know, and I've seen this coming for a long time.
Hey, Andrew, you know, there's a perception of this increase. We've also got the sort of technology to be able to capture events and stuff. Is there actually an increase, or it's just our awareness of events are more easily accessible?
In what perspective? Just the hurricanes?
Yeah, like weather events and stuff and that's, I get what you're perceiving in that there's an increase, but my attitude is everyone's got a mobile phone with a camera now, you know?
There are more now observing weather via weather reports than there ever was in the last 5,000 years of history. What you focus upon appears in your reality. There's a reason they have weatherman on every goddamn channel that are wrong half the time.
Yeah, I see an increase in events, but the ability...
The weatherman is the guy that never actually got to be a full weather wizard. He always failed at it and ended up being something else, a horseshoer.
Mm.
Well, the weathermen now they're not real weathermen either. I mean, even compared to what they were when I was going to school in the 80s, meteorology was a much different thing than it is now. Right now, it's pretty much rip and read what we tell you to report.
Right.
And weathermen who try to do real reporting on what they're perceiving going on different levels. I've heard of some of them losing their job because they didn't follow the script.
Many.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't hold a lot of faith in TV meteorologists, whether it's I just don't hold a lot of faith. Yeah. So yeah. There's a lot of manipulation as far as that goes, and what the public is being told and made to understand about the realm that we live in and how it operates. And
everything is being manipulated.
Yeah.
Literally everything.
And it always has been. It's nothing new.
Uh-huh. Now the key is, what are we doing with the knowledge?
What was that?
Well, the key is, what are we doing with this knowledge?
I'm trying to integrate it into my reality bubble and work with the storms. And, when you tell your average individual that, they look at you like you're batshit crazy, so...
Well, then that is their batshit crazy perception.
Well, exactly. But this isn't a conversation I can have with a lot of people.
Hey, you could.
But I've had it with a few, yeah. Weather-minded, earth keepers, and there's more and more people waking up to this, which is really cool. Because when I first started doing the calls to action, and they got better, but yeah, there seem to be a lot more people aware now than there were even in 2014 about our natural ability, as living cells on the body of this realm, Earth, whatever you want to call it, that we can connect with these systems. And that's just part of our matrix.
What I'm saying is directly a part of our matrix. It is direct access to the reality fabric weavers.
The reality fabric eaters? Is that what
Weavers.
Weavers. Okay.
That which actually creates the fabric of the hologram.
So when you connect, when you connect with them, what are the possibilities that you can do?
It expands your ability to create your own fabric around your own reality, because you are an infinite energy. You have access to the infinite energy spark.
Yeah.
You are an infinite energy drive. You just got to learn how to get the engine started.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of us are like the Millennium Falcon. We just have to hit ourselves in the right spot and we'll go.
It's true. The journey that I've been on in the last few years, there have been times where I was keenly aware of the reality bubble.
Yep.
And I'm always keenly aware of it, but sometimes more so than others. And what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Caveman makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Caveman makes sense.
Yes, caveman makes sense.
So, Goldie, are the hurricane paths related to the slave trade routes? Absolutely, yes, they are. and the dark ritual and magic that took the gold from Mesoamerica, stored it on those islands where the dark rituals were put on it. So when it was taken back to Europe, it had the curses put on it so it could be formed into the Babylonian money curse. Ta-da! Another sets of puzzle pieces falling in, ring-a-ding-ding, puzzle pieces falling everywhere. And then it's the whole Dreamtime invasion and the, let's just say, time travel stuff that was done there, off-world or on-world, gates, portals, all the demonic shit that those people did on Haiti, Cuba, Barbados, all of that shit. Guess what? Those were the islands that were the tops of mountains in a previous era. Or islands that are just one giant crystal. They knew what they were doing. That was surrounded in an ocean that created hurricanes on a cyclical basis. There was an era in which those islands were giant psychic batteries powering ceremonial belief engines that changed the world.
I just experience it all at the same time. I've gotten past the screen phase where I'm so into the consciousness of the world and the Akashic records, so I experience all communication simultaneously.
I'm not sure how that makes any communication possible, Andrew, if you've got that much data coming in.
It's perception. I mean, I've reached the unlimited data perception point a long time ago. So it's infinite. It's infinite for me, and has been infinite for a long time. And I've just learned to function and translate into the 3D matrix, that the infinite language, as best as I can in the 3D matrix language.
Yeah.
Something else I recommend for people: get out there and go to form drumming groups. Drumming and music and band groups are such an important way of getting chemistry among people, sharing energy, learning new skills that can create all sorts of wonderful things. In the drumming and dance groups, for those people out there that don't have a musical inclination group, if you can make a drumming group, make a dance group, so the two energies can interact. You know, if one of you are an energy master, or you guys want to form a drumming group that uses all the skills that Michael teaches in his classes, you guys can do some amazing things with music and energy.
Michael, that's starting to sound like North American and South American group rituals, drumming and dancing.
That's the way we changed the earth before. That's the way we interacted with the earth. Your footfalls create a vibratory pattern. The drums create a vibratory pattern. All of those vibratory patterns interreact and create an amalgamated paradigm field of energy that literally finds a co-creative expressive form to the entity of Earth, and then Earth comes into your actual physical footfall movements and handfalls in their drums, creates perfect synchronicity and perfect exchange of energy. Yeah. So all spiritual needs, all physical needs, all sexual needs are met during that moment. When it comes to weather, 2 drummers and an energy master can change the weather. 10 drummers and 5 energy masters are going to make things that the videotapes will record. Okay?
Wow.
10 dancers, 10 drummers, 10 energy masters, functioning as a group with a central theme of expressing your free will and expressing your energy with no negative contracts interacting between any of them, allows you all to soul mass expand, all to experience the earth, all to experience the energies that you're expressing to. You know, if you're in a high earthquake zone, go and drum on the fault line. If you see a thunderstorm coming in, get out there and drum to it. Get out there and dance to it. Your actions create interaction with that moving system of energy.
And it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I've personally been a part of a group that was 8,000 drummers that drummed and danced on the San Andreas Fault. Let me tell you something. I experienced more earth energy during that time than I have ever before.
So what do you see going on with Irma?
It's all following a path of karma. So it is, if it goes south towards Mexico, you know that the negatives are still fighting each other really bad, and that there's going to be more storms that come up the pike that they're going to have to battle. Because every time they try to fight the system seriously, it boomerangs back and hits them in the head in another way. If it goes over Cuba, direct over Haiti, Cuba, then it is a direct time wave storm onto the haunting of Cuba. Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic are the center of the dark forces, and it's where a lot of the negative, Puerto Rico, all that.
Really?
So then it goes from there, it goes into the Gulf, and then it goes up the inside of the Gulf Coast, and then goes up the Appalachian Mountains and dumps on Washington, D.C. So it's an entire eastern seaboard could have a Category 5 20-foot storm surge and 20 inches of rain, even if the thing never actually touches shore.
Whoa.
Right.
Well, there are some models showing it going, actually there's like a jet stream highway that goes up along the East Coast.
Yep.
And that those are the models I've been seeing where it's going to go up parallel to Florida, South Carolina, and they're concerned. Yeah.
So a lot of times they will actually go over the tip of the Keys and enter the Gulf and then reverse course and go back over Florida and then up. That's a worst case scenario. Right. And I believe we are headed to the worst case scenario, but it's a matter of if they give up energy and saying the system gives up the energy that the machine is coming to take, then the storm will dissipate and there'll be average damage, average flooding.
Well, that's kind of what happened with Matthew last year.
Yes, because the good guys were doing good things then. You got to realize weather warfare it's not one country. Every country's doing it.
Yeah.
And to say that it's not necessarily a moratorium on it. The amount of energy that it takes to alter a system that is so spun up is out of control. It's very easy to detect when you've got to activate, 10,000, generators from, deep underground to power something that's supposed to change a system that's, massive, entire world system. In the old days, it didn't take a lot of energy. It takes more and more and more energy now to change the system because it's so wound up tight.
Yeah, it's like a trend in a chart, and to keep the trend going, you need to have like exponential volumes of energy to maintain the trend, and it's artificial. Hey, I've done this series with regions of the world, and Andrew talked about the earthquakes and the pyramids harvesting energy. So is there an escalation with the earthquakes to sort of repay, to dissipate these storms? Is there a relationship with the earthquakes?
More than likely, this hurricane will trigger a series of earthquakes after it's done, after the water saturated the ground again. So those areas that are having lots of sinkholes, so on and so forth, because the whole water system's been changed. It's not allowed to be its natural processing. Water's got to be redistributed, and now what we're seeing is mass redistribution of water, which is what? Reprogramming of the very essence of what's in that area.
Yeah.
Now that's programmed water.
Let me ask you this, Andrew. In an area, and I'm thinking about all of the water weight that just hit Texas too. In addition to that, how does all of the chemicals in the water that are leaching from everything that got hit and busted open by the water, because Houston is the petrochemical industry capital of the world.
That's not necessarily.
How does that affect the programming of the water with all of these toxins?
That's not the big deal. The big deal is all the cars, trucks, and buses that are at full gas tanks that were flooded out.
Yeah.
There could easily 2 million cars underwater now, each with an average of 10 gallons of gas, and if it's a truck, an average of 200 gallons of diesel.
Yeah.
Okay. There's the real thing. It's how much does it blanket? Okay? If it's in certain areas, it can be okay. Is the groundwater going to be affected? Absolutely, it's going to be affected. But if you have another storm and another storm and another storm that come upon it and keep filtering it out, and it goes back out to the ocean, gets caught up in silt and bound up like it's like a normal process, and we might have some issues. But really, it's a long term, 20, 30 years down the road before you even think about water poisoning, because it takes that long to get water poisoning. Benzene-based poisoning from all the petrochemicals. Now, I was saying about earthquakes. There will be a series of shallow to mid-level earthquakes that come after the storm. One, because it'll be a heavy, very low-pressure system that is above water, that is creating a new wave action that is pushing against the continental shelf, that is pushing against the Appalachian Mountains, that is now being filled with water. So it's like pushing on a dry sponge, and all of a sudden you add water to a dry sponge. What happens? Moves.
Yeah.
Right.
Gets real squishy.
Gets real squishy, exactly. So that's what you can see the eastern seaboard as real squishy.
And then with other storm coming, because the eastern seaboard also got dumped on by Harvey too. That's still moving through the eastern seaboard right now.
Yes, it is. So now it's going a little more south. So Tuesday, so now it's not going as north as it was. So I'm going to look here.
It's interesting you're talking about the cars and the volume of cars, because I know there's a huge oversupply in the creation of cars.
Uh-huh.
I know the car companies are really, they're trying to incentivize to get people to buy new cars and stuff, and it's getting, to the end of a trend on many levels, and they're seeing a benefit from this, from insurance purposes.
Yeah. So look at this caption. Hurricane Irma crawling west. Northern Lewite Islands closely monitoring it. The hurricane is only affecting the fish now. Duh. Yeah, it is affecting the fish.
Let's see. Oh my gosh. Well, it's interesting what you said earlier, because one of the things I have noticed here in the last 18 to 24 months are a lot of reports of new species, marine species.
Uh-huh. That's what I just was saying. They teleported from one frequency of time and brought it to now.
Yeah. And even on the ground, even on the land, I saw a really cute new moth that they found. Looked like an alien. It was so cute. Oh my God. I mean, just you kind of wanted to cuddle with this moth. But yeah, it's interesting it makes sense what you're saying there. And I know how vortex energy works because I've constantly got one going around me. And I use this vortex for clearing stuff and creation. It's when I don't have a vortex go. When I've tried to shut this vortex down, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Nope, you can't. It's a process of remedy and resolve. That celestial consciousness itself is guiding the wormhole that's connecting it to the sun, and the water is the tool of changing the program of the hologram. They're making a direct manifestation of the hologram that is altering the hologram from within. That's why it's a low pressure system. An insanely low pressure system.
Yeah. I like how you talk about the new life will be offered an avenue or a life that doesn't add up to the equation of the reality. And the hologram, for most people that are, they accommodate it, it's not going to add up to them. It's like, this doesn't make sense. This isn't a fish that's supposed to be here now. This is something that's 50 million years old, It's like, that doesn't add up. So it might challenge the fabric of their reality construct in there. Then, you know what I mean? Like, I can get that.
Well, you know,
it'll chip away at that, holding on to the reality,
well, one of the hardest things, especially, I mean, I'm in my 50s. I mean, you really, it's hard to change your spots and change after you get 40, things get really settled in. And, this has been a real process for me because when my light body activated in 2012, especially when I was in a peak state of consciousness, I'm like, okay, this is a hologram. I'm on the holodeck. Where's the panel? Open the doors. But understanding how that functions has been really tricky because I've been in this phase for a while now of what is real and what, not just what is real, but what does real mean in this hologram, in this creation. And, I have my individual reality bubble that's existing in this realm with other reality bubbles. But what coming at me, especially through technology, is real. And that's kind of at a point where I'm at right now. Why I'm not publishing a lot on my blog is I'm just questioning the nature of this reality and what is real, what's disinformation, what's programming, and how I can really help people, because I just spent 2 years on this blue avian thing, and it's appears to be a big psyop in many respects,
It doesn't need to be anything other than something that's no longer a part of your focus.
Right.
Different way of looking at it. Okay? It got you out of the house. It got you motivated. There was a good part to it.
Oh, there was a real good part. For about 6 months, I was flying really high. A little too high. Icarus got the wings burned. But yeah, it does, it does bring me back to what's real in this realm and what does real mean.
I tell you what I do in it, for me, there's nothing, failure doesn't exist, all right? It's just an experience with data.
Exactly.
And say I go through something and the outcome isn't what I hope for or anything like that. When I can sort of review myself at certain stages, and I usually get senses about certain things, and I might have made choices based on the senses that I had at the time, which I thought were, this is telling me this is true, but it was actually saying, nah, this is bullshit. But I read it wrong. Yeah. So it's like I take on board the experience of what I did and then integrate it with what I do going forward. And then it's that backwards bicycle that Andrew talked about early 2013. It's like the wiring in me wasn't right. The wiring was giving me a good indicator when it was actually a red light, and that's all cool. It's just with that experience, I can rewire myself with it. And then I test myself with that wiring. What you've got the articles and stuff, and I know you're in that transition phase where you're integrating the experience and you're being responsible, So it's just a matter of integrating what you've been through, and to me, it's like you have to go through that shit to really be solid, It's like this.
Yeah.
The metaphor of the Houston thing with people being challenged. It's like, to me, comfort breeds complacency, and humanity is complacent. So it's time to learn.
Yep.
Well said. Well said.
Just be you, just be you. Don't worry about the outcomes and stuff like that. Just be you, and you'll find yourself,
Well, I think part of my issue, the last few months has been reaching, and you and I, Andre, have discussed this about, information overload, data overload.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And, my blog in 6 years, I posted over almost 14,000 posts. that's data overload, you know, and I think that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just trying to let the data go. And you had said something earlier today on your show, Andrew, about overanalyzing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm a Sagittarius. That's kind of, we're the thinkers.
So get this. I just was checking on Hurricane Irma, Andre, when we were talking about those storms that went up the river and over Lake Erie, back down the river. One model shows that actually happening for Irma.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of, Annette, yesterday in like the second recording, because we went through like past major hurricanes, like the Kamikaze in Japan was about when the weather whipped up and defeated the Mongols, trying to invade Japan in 1270, and stuff in 1870s in Hong Kong that hit all the opium sort of stuff, and there was one in the Caribbean in the 1780s that smashed everything and all the pirates and stuff, and then there was a 1814 in Washington where it defeated the English, and the English gave up the next day. So yeah, it's interesting.
Well, Andrew, this brings me to a question that kind of relates to Don's question about mass meditations.
Uh-huh.
On these storms, say when we've got something headed towards Hawaii or like Irma, how much effect can people who are working with the weather wizards, how much effect can we really have on these systems?
Individually, a lot. As a group, virtually zero.
Really?
It's an individual relationship.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
Too many light workers want to throw everyone together that like we're all equal. No, we're not all equal.
Well, what I've done in the past, and this is how I handled these calls, and it's pretty much just been when stuff's headed for Hawaii. I've put out a call to action to light workers, hippies, you know, everybody who's into this, and just ask them to do their thing. And it's not organized where we all do it at once with a certain prayer, a certain meditation. It's just like, do it, you know, just do it.
How many do you think actually do it?
Good question. Very good question. I usually get a fairly good response from people. 20 to 40? I don't know. That's a good question because I don't really count. I just throw it out there and do my own thing and trust that others are doing theirs.
What you're saying is different than what Don was asking. Very
Well, yeah, somewhat different, but it's still how can we affect something out there that's going on?
Well, first thing first, you are not going to step on another's journey. So when a person thinks they're going to go and change a storm, they're stepping on everyone's journey. Some people need that storm as part of their resolution.
Yeah.
There might be a rat down the street that needs to drown from that storm.
Okay.
So thinking that you have control over the whole of nature instead of working with nature to understand why this storm is in existence as a process of remedy and resolve. What is remedy and resolve? Balancing of the energy. We can't physically do it ourselves. So the Earth has given us these wonderful tools of the unlimited point of view. You know how much energy is in that hurricane?
How much?
Type it in Google. Probably enough to power the entire world for 10,000 years.
Whoa.
Right, that's how much energy is in there.
Yeah, I guess like the purpose of doing these recordings with Andrew is that it's to give the greater purpose of why this stuff's going on. And I'd get out of the way. I'd say, go for it. Go for it.
We got to stop validating the 3D matrix and validate the other points of view.
It's like if it goes into Houston and clears 1 million ghosts and demons,
right?
It's like, and so that grid of that city no longer has the hold on that region of the earth that requires the other regions to compensate, which they don't have the energy for. Then what potential dream times might there be in a post-hurricane city, you know?
And where people aren't worried about each other because they just want to survive and get along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unity consciousness.
That's right.
Well, I will say, when I work these storms, one of the things that I work into the equation is cleansing. Because that's how I see them, too. I see them as cleansing mechanisms.
I'll tell you the way I perceive it now after I've done this stuff with Andrew and Annette. It's like there's a greater component that I don't know for the reason of this.
Yeah.
So I actually support that. My input is there's a greater purpose I'm not aware of, so I'm totally in support of that, and let's see what gets revealed. So it's like, yeah. I trust the greater appreciation on this level of the planet knowing what needs to be done. It's like,
yeah.
I do. I'm okay with the challenge that people go through. It's an opportunity. So, and I'm not denying death if it's needed, because it's a process. It might be the end of someone that's time is up, and then they have a review, and then they come back and they be someone. You know what I mean? There's all these layers that you have to factor in. It might be the time for this person. They've achieved what they needed to achieve this lifetime for them to get, be a full, psychic warrior in their next life that Earth needs. Yeah.
Well, I'm totally with you on that. I don't have any. I've faced death enough that I don't have issues with it. That's it. Yeah.
You got the mama want to protect their kids sort of thing, and it's like, you know what? You got to pick yourself up sometimes. You got to learn how to be stronger. There's purpose.
Right. You got to have that suck it up, Buttercup.
Literally, it's a massive buttercup sucker.
Well, just because I may try to, calm a storm down doesn't mean that I'm trying to control anything, or it's a control factor.
Yes, it does. Remember, everything comes down to scale and size, what you're thinking. You are thinking at a big scale, therefore you are controlling something. You have to see the Earth as running the system, and that you're just adding your energy to the Earth to make it go faster.
But you don't live here on the corner of this island with me with tons of dead trees around your house. It's just
now you're talking something different. You're talking making yourself feel better.
Well,
that's ancestral work.
Protection. Take for instance, I've had a couple of occasions where I wasn't paying attention to the weather, and all of a sudden, there's a storm bearing down on the island. And this happened last year. I remember one time in particular where, it was on us, and all I did was just go out around the property, talk to the trees, and asked everything to fall not in the direction of the house. Just
control.
Hey, it's my reality bubble. Shouldn't I have a little control over it?
But the thing is, you might actually draw it to you. It might be like, no, Annette needs a branch.
You got to bribe trees.
No, because when I was sitting over on Kauai trying to control the storm over there, as a cell was bearing down, my car was still here on this property in the carport. I thought I was going to be able to get it back to Kauai, et cetera, et cetera. And and I put so much love into this house and taking care of it and remodeling it and just, I've done a lot here that I was just, sitting over there just going, just don't hit the house, don't hit the car, and she said that the trees came down like matchsticks around the house. Nothing hit the house.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong.
Nothing.
You deserve to be okay. That's the thing.
You got your miracle. You got your miracle.
Yeah.
You're important. You're important. We need you. Earth needs you, my dear.
You can get out the driveway, but at least they didn't hit the house or my car. So. She's like, when I talked to my landlord, she's like, oh my God, Annette, if you still lived here, I don't know when you'd be able to leave your house. There are so many trees. And I'm just like, oh, thank God I'm on Kauai. So yeah, it's, certainly there's a little control there when it comes to wanting to protect property and stuff and protect lives.
That is ancestral magic and not weather magic. Big, massive difference.
So what's the difference? I mean, how is that
ancestral resolution instead of collected storm clouds exchanging programmed water in mass, erasing a surface system or subsurface system through overprogramming or reprogramming of the water. Big difference. Think of it as a wildfire, except it's a hurricane.
Yeah, good point. Good analogy there. So when I'm working with the hurricanes, of course I do work with the water. I work with the wind. Would that be the best route? Is to go in and program the water?
No,
the ocean.
The pressure, the lowest part of the pressure. That is where collections of wind spirits are. Those are the thunder beings.
Ah. So the thunder beings are connected with the wind spirits?
They're virtually one and the same. Think of the thunder being as an ascended wind spirit.
But isn't thunder born from lightning?
No, not always.
Really?
Uh-huh. All different.
How do you get thunder without lightning?
Very careful.
Hey, I've got the answer for you right now because we had it happen 2 a.m. yesterday morning in my city.
Yeah, show her that link.
Yeah, have a look at this in it. Ironic.
Yeah,
just
blow your mind.
You look at the comments. People, it's like crack the reality for a little bit.
Mysterious tremor.
It was like, I was here sitting making videos at 2 a.m. my time, and it felt like, I don't know if you've ever been near drag racing cars and their engines throb and it just goes through you. It was like the whole reality was throbbing and it was going through you. It was unusual. Because I've lived through earthquakes and it shakes like the house, but you don't feel it in you, you know? And it went on for 20 seconds. Like, it just like, you're sitting here and it's like, I'm getting chest vibrations. It's like the air in my lungs is reverberating.
Was that a compression event? So you're talking about pressure. So was that a compression event?
But it sounded like thunder.
Yeah, it sounded like thunder.
It's like just rumbling all over the place. Like, and I've lived through like tremor earthquakes, like 2 and 3. There was a 4 here many years, like a few years ago, and it was like the house rattled and you could feel it. It was just this rumble, but it didn't go through you like this. It just like totally penetrating you.
Interesting.
Reality altering. So as I said, there's different forms of thunder and lightning that can come into existence, like ball lightning.
Yeah.
It's all different spirit energy. So When you're working with the eye of the
Evidence
storm
being-
is where you can find the collected collections of storm cloud beings who are ancestors at the earth elemental level. They are what creates the hologram itself. They're the weavers and the reweavers of the hologram. Now, the hologram is affected by technology. DNA is an instrument of expression and experience. The storm cloud, the collected collection of storm cloud beings, are trying to get us as a consciousness on the surface to create a unity grid. That's their purpose. Anti-weather technologies to keep us from coming together as a collective. So when you're working at the eye of the storm, that's where all the beings that are trying to make us become a collective are working.
Okay.
Back to the whole Earth grid through them.
Interesting. Yeah.
Go to the vortex and say, I'm here to be of service to the fifth world of peace.
Yeah, and that's, that at one point, sometime last year, I really got into going into the eye of the hurricane. And, it's kind of been a progression over the last couple years. But yeah, getting into the barometric pressure and, I work it all the way. I work the waters, the barometric pressure, and then I started going into the eye, talking to the eye. I didn't really listen to what it had to say to me, though. It was just kind of like, just calming. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. That kind of helps me.
Maybe in that next time you do it, all right? Tune in and instead of wanting to karma, say, go to work, sunshine, clear. Do what
Here to
you
be
need
of
to do.
service. How can I help?
Yeah, like empowering
help.
to clear on a level that humanity needs on the surface of Earth.